Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Gold Forum Americas is brought to you by Metalla Royalty and Streaming.
Mining legends never retire. They're just waiting for the next deal. This is Paul Harris with Kitco Mining at the Gold Forum Americas in Colorado Springs, and joining me are two of the most storied names in the industry, Frank Giustra of the Fiore Group and Neil Woodyear, CEO of Aris Mining. Frank and Neil, welcome to Kitco.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. Now, you've both achieved an awful lot in this sector, too much to sort of name and go through your multi-decade careers. You've both recently returned with new ventures. Why now?
Well, I'll speak for myself. For a few years now, I've been looking to a bull market in metals. I think is going to be a secular bull market in metals, especially gold. And I think we're in the beginnings of it now. You're seeing it. Gold's found a new level and it's staying there. And I think there's going to be tremendous opportunities for creating wealth in our industry. Although you would not believe it today by looking at the market, this is an excellent time to be building something or buying something. And so that's the reason we're starting over with Aris, which we started 2 years ago. And we're building a gold mining company with several mines and several projects. So it's just in anticipation of what I believe will be a great bull market.
I think from my point of view, and we haven't really left and come back again, because the first venture we did together in mining as opposed to financial was Endeavour, followed by Leagold, followed quickly by Aris. There's been no gaps. It's been a continuation. And it's been a continuation which we've learned a lot going through the process. And I think that, as far as I'm concerned, this is definitely my last one. So, it's been a steady process of learning and developing the technique.
Thank you. Now, how do you build a mining company? This is, I won't say it's a simple thing, but it's perhaps seems simple to some people, but imagine it's immensely complicated. And what is it that you guys do that really seems to work?
I'll start. We have a very specific strategy and model that we've been using for over 20 years. It started, and we first applied this approach when we did Wheaton River, which turned into Gold Corp, starting in 2001. Tremendously successful, and it's a buy and build strategy. So you're doing both at the same time, using your expertise, our expertise in capital markets, our expertise in M&A, and obviously Neil is an expert in debt financing. That's where the world he came from, and an excellent operator. So my philosophy is always very simple. You find a great asset, back a great management team, you invest early, and then you just wait. Your patience. And all of these deals on average take between 3 and 7 years to mature to something of great value, depending on markets. And that's been our experience. And so that's our approach. It's a buy and build strategy.
And I think from the buy side, what we always look for is an asset that has a fair valuation, but has some good upside potential that you're not paying for. For instance, when in West Africa we bought a project, we had a feasibility study, another project we could do, which gave us a second mine. And I think that's something we're doing now in Aris when we took over Segovia. We're also now into the small miner business. We didn't pay to get into it. We paid for an asset, a good producing asset, but it gives us another entry point. And I think part of our philosophy has also been that we never actually have to do a deal. We can always walk away from a deal if we don't like the pricing of it. So we never put ourselves in a situation where we just have to get this deal done. And the market changes, and a good deal today could be a bad deal tomorrow, and what is good and available today may not be available tomorrow. So you have to be very pragmatic about it, and I think we are in our approach.
Well, interesting you mentioned the small miner deals you've done at the Segovia asset in Antioquia in Colombia, and that you're rolling out at the Marmato project in Caldas, Colombia. That's helped you achieve record gold production. You're talking about record gold production numbers, so obviously been quite successful.
I think the small miner strategy at Segovia, which was introduced by the prior management, they did an absolutely superb job of doing that. They really underlined their social license to operate. They achieved roughly about 40% of the production comes from small miners. What we did, and this is one of the reasons we acquired it, not just the cash flow, but we could see that if we could take what they had done and develop it more into a partnership with the small miners and putting the benefits of the industrial miner and small miner together, we could use this model not only to increase production at Segovia, but we could use it to enhance our license at Marmato and at Sote Norte. So we've been concentrating very much on that kind of new mining model, combining these small artisanals, local knowledge and small mining skills with our commercial knowledge, our access to capital and our technology, and working those together in a true partnership, which both benefit from.
You've both been involved in building mining companies, several mining companies. Is it addictive?
I would say so. Yeah, no, I think that, listen, I can only speak for myself. There's nothing more exciting than starting with a concept. And that's how all our deals start, all our companies start. It's like, what are we going to do? How are we going to approach this? You're starting from scratch. And most times you're starting with a smaller asset. We call it our starter kit. And then we build from there with bigger and bigger assets, more or longer life assets. And the thrill of achieving success, which we've done several times, is just too much to walk away from. And, you know, I do it, like my life is mostly philanthropy. I've dedicated my life to running my foundations, which is great. It's what I love. But this is just fun. I love doing this. I love just starting from nothing and creating something of great value. I love to see people make money.
We're going to have to get security to escort you through the room, because I think if people hear you say this is fun, you're probably going to get lynched in this market.
It definitely is fun. It definitely is addictive. When you can bring the elements of putting something together, you have to do with the technical elements, you have to do with the political elements, social elements, financial elements. It really is so multidimensional that to pull them all together is great fun, and it's a great feeling of success and totally addictive.
You're both looking to, with your current projects, to fix or improve upon the work of previous operators to create value. Why do you think, or what do you do right that perhaps other companies don't? Who's going to take that one? Frank Giustra.
Well, listen, you never want to disparage other management teams. You know, everybody has their own whatever. But I think that when you have the depth of experience that we have in all things, capital markets, M&A, debt finance, project financing, operations, having a really top-notch, world-class operating team, that in itself almost guarantees success. You know, obviously nothing's guaranteed, and it's a very difficult industry to work through. But if you have those elements in place, you've de-risked it by 1,000-fold. And I used to be an investment banker back in the 80s and 90s. I ran a firm that only financed mining companies. It was called Yorkton Securities. So I saw it all. I saw every type of mining entrepreneur in the business. And the level of expertise is like there's two separate, like you have this spectrum of, the really bad operators, or bad promoters, bad financiers, people that really don't understand what they're doing, to some really good ones. And all I can tell you about the good ones is there's less than a handful in the world that do it repeatedly, over and over. I know them all. And, we've done so many companies. I've financed so many companies in my investment banking days, created a lot since 2001. And the best gold companies I've created have been with Neil involved.
I think, to me, one of the most important things is how you make decisions. I remember when we took over Los Filos from Goldcorp, in a previous company, we ran it differently. We didn't run it better, but we ran it differently. And we made decisions in a different way. And we are very entrepreneurial in the way we approach a problem and the way we approach an opportunity. We don't fall in love with an asset. We don't fall in love with a technical principle or anything like that. We're not exposing ourselves to a lot of geological risk. We're looking at deal risk and how you can put things together. That's the essence of what we're doing. And we make decisions quickly. We make them on the basis of, 85% of knowledge is good enough. If you try and get 100%, you'll never do the deal. So we have to make quick decisions, and we have to be confident in the team that's making those decisions. And luckily, we've worked together with these people for a long period of time. The team's been together, so we know each other, so we can make informed, quick decisions. And I think decision-making and how you do it is a very important part of growing a business like this.
Well, imagine a lot of that comes from experience, from failures. You learn from your failures, you learn from your successes. The skill sets that you two gentlemen have, it's not something you can distill and put in a bottle. It's not something perhaps you can create an algorithm to replicate. So in the future, succession strategy, how do you perhaps think about that and allowing the opportunities you're creating to continue to thrive in the future?
Well, I think one of the things is Frank and I are very, very different in the way we look at things and how we analyze things. So that has been a complementary skill set that we've been able to put together.
We don't always agree.
We had one big disagreement, but we solved that problem. We moved on. It's how you approach those things, yeah. And to say we are different, and respect for the other side and the other issues are the important things. It comes back, I think, again to the how you make decisions and the confidence you have in your colleagues.
Frank, anything to add to that one?
No, I think he's absolutely bang on. I think the other thing that we've done over the years with different companies is find assets that are not obvious to the marketplace. Yes. I remember when we were building Goldcorp back in the early 2000s, the market was always trying to guess what our next acquisition was going to be, and they always got it wrong because we'd pluck something out of some dark corner that no one knew existed or was available, private equity or owned by a family or something, and we'd surprise the market with some asset that people never knew about or had long forgotten about. And we did it with Soto Norte in Aris, which it's an incredible deposit. I mean, you want to give this is a massive deposit in Colombia, which is going through permitting stages right now. That's going to produce, who knows, up to 450,000 ounces a year, long mine life, high grade. It was sitting somewhere that people had forgotten about. It wasn't obvious.
I must say, I think you did a good deal there because you got a huge amount of optionality there and upside for a relatively modest initial capital outlay.
Yeah. But it took 9 months to negotiate that deal.
Now, the current market for junior gold explorers and developers is pretty terrible. Do you see this as a moment to really start building something new and something big?
Listen, I said this to someone this morning. I said, if I had infinite resources, if I were Bill Gates, for instance, I don't have Bill Gates' money, but if I did, I would be buying control of so many companies right now in our space because they're the cheapest I've ever seen them. The relative value between the commodity, in this case, say gold, and the share prices of the mining companies, there's such a disparity right now. This is the buyer's market. The sad thing is that for most people, that is a problem because you can't access capital. So it's not easy for people that don't have access to capital to compete. But if you had infinite resources, now is the time to buy everything. The second thing I'll say is that my experience, and I've seen so many markets since 1978 when I first got in this business, every time you're in a market like this where the sentiment is so bad, although you know that it will change and get better, inside you feel like it will never get better. And I still go through that and have to slap myself and go, come on, you've seen this before. And it will always change. And now we're in the depths of lack of interest in the gold mining sector. That will change. And it might change suddenly, overnight, with the price of gold doing something extraordinary, which could happen. But the current state of the market right now will change. If you're an investor in this market, all my suggestions, you buy something of high quality with a good management, just sit back and wait. Don't worry. It will change. It will come back. These things will get revalued.
Well, that's one thing I think is, I think that's a very interesting viewpoint because if you look at the senior gold producers, there's a good number of them have got $500 million plus sitting on their balance sheets. And with that money, you could buy 5 or 10 juniors with a couple of million ounces on their books in, measured and indicated resources. And yet none of them are doing it. Why do you think that is? And are they really missing a beat here to fill out their production, their development pipelines?
They're shy. They got beat up so badly after 2011. They got, such grief from their shareholders, especially the institutional shareholders, that they're shy to come into the market. Consolidation will happen. It has to happen because you can't find the kind of gold deposits. They just don't. They can't pluck them out of the air. The juniors have to find these things, develop them, and then this eventually, as always happens, and it usually happens after you've had a good run in gold and everybody's happy again. That's when they start spending money, and it will happen in the cycle sometime. That the bigger, more established companies will have to pick off the juniors. They'll have no choice. Where else are they going to replace the reserves with? They can't. They have no choice. So I think, in every cycle, you climb a wall of worry where everybody's still shy, everybody's still hurting from the bruises and scars they've had from the last cycle. And then as things get rosier and more robust, the market gets frothier, then they all start writing checks.
And history says they write checks too long. The market's turned against them and they're still writing the big checks. And a lot of money gets wasted on the curve downwards. So it is very much judgmental as to and also they are slow at making decisions. It seems to be the bigger the company, the slower the decisions and the bureaucracy. And that's a negative impact. But from our point of view at the moment, while we see opportunities, we're suffering exactly the same way in our share price. We don't want to trade our share price at today, start issuing paper to do acquisition at the share price of this day. We believe it'll go higher. So, we're affected by the market in exactly the same way everybody else is.
Over the past couple of years, a lot of the gold producers, they've been repairing their balance sheets, capital discipline, returns to shareholders. They haven't done anything crazy with M&A. They're starting to give multi-year production outlook, and yet they're still not winning the hearts and minds of investors. What other levers are there to pull? Is there something else they can do?
I don't know I can't judge what they should do, but I think the overall market is waiting for the sentiment to change. And right now, it's just not there. And it doesn't matter what you produce, people just don't care. My guess, and again, it's speculation, but I think once gold finds a new high and establishes itself at that new high, let's call it 2100, and it kind of doesn't go back to 1800, okay? Once it establishes that for a while, that's when the sentiment will change. Because you can't ignore these profit margins. How long can you ignore the kind of profits that we're making with what's our all-in
if you have an all-in sustaining 1100 and gold prices at 1800, I mean, you just...
What happens at 2300, 2500? You can't ignore this sector. And right now, general markets are focused on tech and other things, but that will change.
What are some of the highlights, lessons learned, and maybe regrets from your careers? Neil, maybe let's start with you this time.
Thank God.
Highlights. Highlights was probably creating Endeavour Mining. That was certainly more successful in Leagold. Low point was probably regretting doing the deal that we did with Leagold and Equinox. I think we did that deal too soon. That was a very good lesson to learn, and we won't do that again, make that mistake again. So I would relate the highlights and lowlights to sort of timing and success of deals from that point of view.
I honestly can't think of. I've had so many highlights. I've had a great career.
You never made a mistake.
No. And I've had lots of disasters of things that just didn't work out. Yeah. And but as an old partner of mine once said, is in this game, score more goals than are scored against you, and you're going to do fine. Yeah. And I think we've had way more successes than we've had failures. It's a risky business. You have to deal with geology and engineering and politics and communities and, commodity prices and market, so it's a tough business. So occasionally you're going to stumble because, things happen. But we de-risk most of the stuff that are human mistakes. We try and not make, and then the rest is up to the gods. Something goes wrong that you can't control.
Well, talking about the gods, let's bring those into the conversation. And what are you most excited about over the next 12 to 18 months?
I have a very simple target in the next 12 to 18 months to make sure that Soto Norte is put into the right shape and is going solidly towards production. Simple as that. It is a huge mine, huge potential, huge value to our shareholders.
Excellent. And
I couldn't agree more. While we're building the expansion at Marmato, which is now happening, that'll take us 400,000 ounces a year. If we get Soto Norte permitted, we can see a pathway to 600,000 ounces a year to our account. And then we still have the one in Guyana, which we have to think about what to do. And that's 7 million ounces to Peru. And so we have plenty of runway to create a production profile. So it's just methodically, one step at a time.
Yeah, there isn't necessity to rush or be rash or anything like that, and there isn't necessity where we have to go and issue a lot of paper. We can do our present projects from our own balance sheet at the moment. Soto Norte extends us, and we'd have to look at that. But Marmato is certainly well and truly covered.
Well, mining legends, but a lot more to come, it seems.
You betcha.
Well, Frank Giustra, Neil Woodyer, thank you very much for joining us today. This has been great.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And this is Paul Harris for Kitco Mining at the Gold Forum Americas in Colorado Springs. And if you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe.
Kitco Mining's special coverage of the Gold Forum Americas is brought to you by Metallo Royalty and Streaming.